Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and today I'm going to be going over my top 10 games of 2023. This is going to be a revised list because obviously 2 years ago I did my top 10 games of that year, and since 2024 is now over, I feel like it would be a fun time to go over the list prior just to see if any new games have came on, which games have rose, which games have slipped, and I've done this on a few years in the past. Now, granted, I didn't do it the consecutive year after, but I went back to 2022 and 2021, and I thought that that was fun to do just because it's interesting to see how games fall after about a year when the hype dies down or whenever you get a chance to play other games, because I don't get to play every game that comes out in the year, obviously. Um, but I try to hit on the major ones or try and come up with a good 10 for that year. But some games fall through the cracks, and that was definitely the case in 2023. So let's go ahead and get started. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over, I have Board Game Geek pulled up. I'm just going to type in the game there. I don't have a sexy PowerPoint or anything like that. But I'm going to type in the game of what is the current list. So I have my honorable mention and then the 10 for the revised. This is what it would be if I were to do it again in 2023. And then I'll talk about if it was on that list, and if it was previously, I'll talk about where it was on the original, and I'll also talk about games that have fallen off. So, with that being said, we are going to go with the honorable mention that is Divinity Original Sin, the board game. And this is actually pretty fascinating because at this point in time, I was really high on the Divinity game, but at the time of this recording, I have since completed the campaign. Now, where this gets uploaded in relation to when the series is being posted, I'll probably do it. I'll probably try and do it after, but you never know. Spoiler for that series, but we have completed this campaign, and while I still think it's a fun, good game, I have been. Uh, the ending was a little bit disappointing, so I'm not as high on it. Hence why it's the honorable mention instead of being any higher up. But to replicate the actual video game, I think it does a pretty good job. It is a short, concise type of campaign, which is a huge plus. And the character customization of this is really, really fun. Like you like pick a character that obviously has like a class to them. Like let's see, let's take a good old gander at potentially one of the pictures. So there we go. This is actually a pretty good picture. So you pick a character that has a special ability that kind of leans towards a certain class, but you are not limited to do that in any way. You'll eventually get all these talents that you can pick up that can do crazy combinations, and you have a bunch of different classes or schools you could dive into that would give you a completely unique build. And then the short form factor of instead of having the sprawling tiles of exploration, you have this book, and I have become a massive fan of campaign games that utilize the book system. This is just, I mean, if I could take any campaign and if it had a book over tiles, I'm gonna choose the book because this is, I mean, one, you get artwork, you get story, you sometimes get rules in there that are unique. I just feel like you would be a lot more creative with the book system. Um, so this does a really good job in capturing like a kind of D&D style RPG. Um, it's just that by the end of the campaign, in our experience, you're just completely overpowered that the ending kind of wraps itself up. But still a fun game, had a good time with it. That is my honorable mention, Divinity Original Sin, which was not on the list last in 20, not last year in 2023. The next one, which was originally the honorable mention, but then this one, Divinity, popped in. This one I had not had a chance to play. I believe it was on Brad's list whenever we originally did the top 10, and that is Apiary. This is a game that I need to actually pick up my own copy um, because I thoroughly enjoyed it. This is the space game about bees. Why? Who knows? But it is a wonderful, wonderful game that is by Stonemaier Games, which I've kind of cooled on their games lately, but at least they're bigger games. But their small footprint games like Apiary or Stamp Swap have really captivated me. So in Apiary, you utilize these uh, dice. I mean, they're not really dice. They're essentially bees that have workers that tick up in value, which is something that I've always enjoyed. And you have various. Man, can I get a picture of the damn board? No one needs this cute thing with the honey. The honey doesn't even come with the game. You have to go out and buy your own, or if you're a real tryhard, you actually cultivate your own honey. Um, Here we go. There we go. That's a good picture. So not only do you get your own space board, like over here, that allows you to kind of build out with like kind of various hex expansions, but you have these different sections that the workers are going up, and the value of the bee you're sending out means you can do a lot more at that location. And that's just a mechanism that I've always enjoyed. Feels really good whenever you're placing high value bees, but then they eventually will go into hibernation in this case, and they tick down, and you have to spawn new bees. But what's really cool is you have this advanced section that gives you more tiles that goes into your own ship, which kind of gives you your own personal engine. And then you have this carve area that you need specific resources for to get these end game victory points. It just does a lot of stuff that I really like in a Euro without it being overly complex, which, as I've said multiple times at this point, I am not really into the heavy Euros anymore. Like, I'll play them, I'll be like, this is good or this is great, and I have no desire to get it back out on the table. But Apiary was definitely uh, a fantastic worker placement game, and the reason I even got a chance to play is because I got to review the expansion, which just adds a little bit more, but they changed one major component in that. So you have these different slots for your hive, but then you can expand out and kind of expand your hive out a little bit more. In the base game, those expansions were all the same. And in the expansion, those are all different and they have unique like effects for whenever you build on top of them. And I think that was just a huge improvement to the game. So very much enjoyed Apiary. I do need to snag my own copy because I don't have one at this point, but it did shoot up on the list, and this was also not in my top 10 of 2023. Now, we're going to go to a game that was in the top 10 of last year, and that is Isofarian Guard, if I could type correctly. So, Isofarian Guard is a unique game, to say the least. I think I have a very love-hate relationship. Obviously, I love this game more than and I don't even hate it. Uh, it's just I have a weird relationship because it's one of those that the core system of the grind and what they clearly want you to do, even in the second printing, tried to fix that without giving up a lot of what the identity of the game is. Which, I mean, obviously the second edition stuff improves the grind, but still it's there. It doesn't completely get rid of it. Um, that part I have a whole video on the Isofarian Guard and its grinding system. But every time I think about this, I think it comes down to the gameplay of the actual chips and the uniqueness of the guards. The When you are fighting, when you're not fighting like a lot, it's a lot of fun. It's puzzly, and I've come to also realize I enjoy combat systems that are more puzzles than just rolling dice to deal heavy amounts of damage. The story I think is really, really good. Like it follows these specific characters that have personalities, and you kind of enjoy those characters, and the villains are, relatively captivating. And then the world is really good. I like the puzzles, I like the side quests. Um, there's a lot of stuff that, like 80% of this game, I very much enjoy. But then the 20% I really don't like. It's kind of like my same feelings with Madara, where I love a lot of that game, but if I binge play it for a long time, I start to really not have a good time. And Madara is that exact same way, where it's like, this is a lot of fun. Now the dice are starting to piss me off. And here it's like, this is a lot of fun. Now the grind is starting to piss me off. But luckily, there's in my grind video, there were a lot of people who had some awesome house rules that I'm gonna start implementing. Or if I don't want to actually implement those, it's a board game. I can do what I want with it. If I don't want to grind for, 6 hours for a level 2 sword, I don't have to. I can just be like, well, look at that. I did it, and then give myself the weapon. But there were a lot of really good creative how to plays, house rules that people came up with to kind of combat that I think will improve the game. But very much intrigued to continue this series. It is a super fun game and relatively small footprint and cheap as much content as you get. I mean the five campaigns is really intriguing. I'm excited to continue to see how the different characters play because right now I'm still only in campaign two. But yeah, this one, like I said, it's at number nine. But in the original list, I had it number four. So it's fallen a little bit, still in the top 10 of the year, but falling five spaces. That's mainly just because the grind has eventually gotten to me. But the extra stuff to fix that, and the other extra stuff like the puzzles and the different cities that have your prestige, I think that that's all really cool. Yeah, so that's Isofarian. I would be able to say it's best at one. I can definitely see that. I prefer this at two. I don't want a two-hand two characters. Not that they're like complex enough where like where it's Kingdom Death Monster or Aeon Trespass where it's like too much to manage. I think this one has a lot of really good narrative elements that are more fun with another person. But I could definitely see why people are playing this solo. It's so they can cheat without anyone watching or judging. So that is my number nine, the Isofarian Guard. My number eight is a new one to this list. This was one I really tried to get played before we actually started doing the top. And this is what's interesting about doing this revised list is because I know some channels wait till like midway into the next year before they do their top 10, so it gives them more of a cushion to play games and go back. That makes sense on why people do that because it gives them a more concise, solid list. Uh, but I also like doing it around the same time everyone else is doing it because that's when people are looking to see what games were out or the best games of that year. Um, and I can always just do these revised lists later on. So my number eight is Evenfall. And there's an expansion coming out that it said 2024, but they lied, or at least I didn't get it. Evenfall was one that I was extremely excited about when I had heard the way it was being played. Funny enough, it is a kind of witchy game, which is a pretty popular theme nowadays. I mean, at least in 2023 and 4, because you had Septima, you had Evenfall, you had Witchcraft, you had probably another one that was really witch centric, and Evenfall does the system that I very much enjoy. One, it gives you kind of a unique coven. Well, you can play with a unique coven where it's asymmetrical powers, otherwise, there's another variant where they're all the same. But this Elysium kind of system where you have your outer circle and your inner circle, and you have two different types of workers. One are kind of like your apprentices, where they're the ones doing pretty much the bulk of the work. Like they're the ones going out to these places of power, doing an area control element to try and bid for these runes and abilities and bonuses for having the most people there. And then utilizing these cards at these various locations, familiars or items or artifacts or things like that. And you're using these for their abilities, whether they're instantaneous or they're unique places that you get to go to, but eventually you're going to want them to score victory points, and you have to move them down from your outer circle into your inner circle where your more valuable workers can't use anymore, but you have your elders that can use them. And I really love that decision making, like that kind of culling of abilities. Elysium did it, and Tyrants of the Underdark did it, where you're like, man, these cards are helping me out so much throughout this entire game, but when do I want to actually pull them down so I'm gonna score them? Like that type of decision making is awesome. And these cards are multi-use. Like these cards on the left can be either um, like your I can't remember the term for it, but you can either have like a passive ability throughout the game, or you can have end game abilities, like kind of like how Imperial Settlers did it, or 51st State, I'm sure does the exact same thing, where instead of getting the passive ability throughout the game, you have an end game ability for them. So it's just the multi-use of all the cards and the fact that you have a unique coven power just does a lot for me, and that's why it's on the list now because I finally got a chance to play it, and it was pretty much everything I was hoping it would be because that it's really that decision making of getting a benefit now and when do you pull them down into basically being victory points. But then sometimes, hey, I don't want to be using my regular people to use this ability. I want to use my elders because they can't do anything except go to your inner circle stuff. So Evenfall, I think, is so good, and I really need to grab the expansion because I want to give that a shot. And that was not on the list in the original 2023. My number 7 was also the number 7 in 2023, which is funny because you would think it would be higher, and that is Great Western Trail, New Zealand. It's the Great Western Trail. This is the best Great Western Trail, in my opinion. One, it's set in New Zealand, and that's just the best place on Earth. And this one just had a lot of extra stuff in it that does wonders for me. One, it is Great Western Trail, so it's still the rondel element of herding your sheep to get them sold off. So and using buildings and kind of the deck building element with the various types of sheep. That's all well and good. That's what makes Great Western Trail fantastic. But the extra stuff that they added to this, yes, it makes it more complex. Um, but they just are phenomenal in this. So kind of like the Rails to the North expansion for the original, this just comes with something similar to that in this river system. So you're sending your boat out to various locations to get bonuses and put down buildings and kind of this your discs that you get to upgrade your personal board. That's all there. In fact, you're kind of incentivized to do it because there's not much to do on the original selling track. You kind of need to go out and do that. But on top of all that, yeah, there were some deck building elements to the original Great Western Trail, but here it's enhanced so much more. You have specific cards that are off to the side that you're going to get a different combination of those every single time you play, and that enhances the deck building element even more to where you can get free cards, like cards that don't cost you anything to play but still give you bonuses, uh, just based off what random market you had set out. So it's on top of having the rails to the north for all intents and purposes added on top of the deck building element, on top of the fact that you can shear your sheep, which gives you kind of because you have an extra type of worker you can get. Not worker, I guess, but what do they call them? I want to find the track. Here we go. Yeah, so you have kind of like your herding, your farmers, your builders, and then the sheep shearers, which you can get a lot more money just from doing that. So I like having the extra type of worker. And honestly, like bridging the gap from original Great Western Trail to this one, I just think this one does everything the original does, but better. And it's funny because they have the Argentina one in between these. And Argentina is so close to the original that I don't see the point in having that one, but this one has the bones of the original while doing a lot more. So you could own this one and the original Great Western Trail, but if I had to pick on one to play, it would always be this one. So yeah, I have all three. Not really sure why I still have Argentina. Because, I mean, I'll never get rid of the original because if I were to teach new players, the original would definitely be the one I would show them. And then it's like, oh, okay, now let's do sheep. Because we have cows and we have sheep. So Love this game. It's phenomenal. Uh, and yeah, it was number 7 last time. So now we are on to number 6, which is Marvel Zombies. A zombicide game. Uh, this is this one's just so funny because this is the only zombicide game I own, and this one, Black Plague, and the original are the only ones that I have played. But which I mean I had heard Green Horde is good. There's the Western one, there's the sci-fi one, there's just a bunch of zombicides out there. And even though I thought Black Plague was better than the original, I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm done with Zombicide games. And then they announced this one, and I'm like, geez, what a fucking cash grab! Like, okay, look at the sheep that are all buying that. And then I kept getting emails on on like what they kept unlocking, and I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. Then I kept getting emails, and I got more emails on just things that they kept unlocking. And I'm like, that's a lot of stuff. I think I'll look into this. So I eventually backed it, and I'm happy to say this one is a lot of fun. Like, I think this one is the one that diversifies itself even more from all the zombie sides because you're actually the zombies. Like you are the bad guys in this fighting. Man, this one has everything. This guy has everything painted. That's cool. But you're the actual villains in this that are going around and attacking and cannibalizing on the heroes of the of Marvel and the regular good guys. I think that's such a unique twist on the actual formula for Marvel Zombies. So not only do you have this hunger track that makes you stronger, the higher up it goes, you also go into this frenzy mode if you don't kill and satiate your hunger. So that's a really cool system on top of the fact that you get. I've always liked this in their games, where the more minions, like the scrubs that you kill, or even the heroes that you kill, increases your XP track, which just unlocks more abilities. And because they have so many characters, and all those characters are unique and true to who they are, you can just be like, who's your favorite Marvel character? Yep, here you go. Like, play them. And because I have everything for this game, you have basically, I don't think it's true one to one, but if you don't want to play as the zombies, you can play as the heroes. And for the most part, they have a hero and zombie version of almost all the characters. I don't think they have, every single character in the game has a hero in a zombie mode, but pretty much. Um, like you can get hostages that will give you abilities just for feeding on them. The artwork is fantastic. It's cool mini or not, so their miniatures are amazing. This is just pure fun. Like when you're wanting to play a mob style zombie game that is not a campaign and in the Marvel universe, this is one of the best games to play, I think. So, and then they have the massive Galactus that has its own scenarios that it can either be hero Galactus or zombie Galactus is fucking badass. And then, um, yeah, it's really just pure fun. And at this point, these are the kinds of games that I'm wanting to play. Like once I get a better organizer for it, which luckily they have 3D printed organizers you can get, then it's going to hit the table a lot more. And sometimes it's just fun to bring out a scenario and you just play that one and not have to really worry about too much. So this one is just it's so much fun. I did not go in on the DC one because I don't like DC that much, and yeah, like that one just felt this one worked. The deceased or whatever just really felt like, hey, Marvel Zombies was successful. Now here's DC, and I'm sure people who love DC are saying the same thing about Marvel Zombies, but I did not get that one. I didn't even look at it. Did not get the emails that made me jump into that, and I don't think it did as well. Did it? Actually, I don't know how well it did. Let's take a good old. So Marvel Zombies. Let's see if I can find the. Yes, here we go. So this one made 9 million. On a pledge of 500,000. Like, what? I never. I know these are supposed to be the bare minimum to make the game, but there's no way. There's no way. And then what was it? Deceased. Is that what it was called? Yeah. This one made 2.5 million. Yeah. So clearly didn't do as well. I think people were kind of tired of it at this point. But anyway, that's my number 6 in the original on the original list. It was number 10, so it rose a couple spots. My number 5 fell. It was on the list originally, and it fell mainly because, and I knew this was going to happen. It fell because I need a specific type of gamer and a specific number of gamers to get this played, and that is Hegemony. Oh, Hegemony, how fantastic you are. So this was my number 1 game of 2023, and that's because I had played it. And like I said, I knew this was going to be the case whenever it hit number 1, because this game is so unique and just so special that like it's just gonna sing when I can get it played. And for a lot of games that I own, if that's usually the stipulation, hey, this, maybe I'll get this played, I usually don't keep it. But there's very few games in my collection that I are once in a while games, and that's okay. And Hegemony is definitely that, along with like Twilight Imperium. If if the circumstances align, the stars align, and the gods bless me, and I can get this game played, it's just going to be fucking fantastic whenever I do. This centers around a lot of stuff that I studied while I was in school, so whenever I'm playing it, I'm like, yes, this is all making sense. It's fantastic. Um, and I know people are like, this isn't actually how the real world works in this specific case, and it's like, okay, right, but they have a book that comes with the game that specifically talks about what changes they made to make it a game, because as I've said many, many, many times, like being super thematic doesn't always make good game mechanisms, where it's like, no, that's how it is in the real life. It's like, right, but it's not fun. Here, this game I find to be very accurate for the most part, and also super fun. I love the asymmetry of all the different classes. The extra modifications of the minor decks, or the minor modules to throw in, are great. This one has, the same type of negotiation and, tug of war elements that you would see in real life. If you're like the corporation, you're like, I need to make more money, so I don't want to pay my workers as much of a livable wage. Then, because I want to buy more businesses, or I need more resources, or I need to do whatever it might be. And so you lower the minimum wage, then the people can go on strike, and like the working class can go on strike, and then you're not getting any resources, but then you're also not paying them, but you need resources to sell. But then you can go in and vote, have a lot of swing for the voting to make the laws be minimum wage as low as possible. um, and like the each of the classes, while the middle class being kind of like a mix between the capitalists and the corporation and the working class, they still have their own swing. I love the deck play of all of these. And this is one of those super complex games. Whoa. Whoa. This is one of those super complex games that they did well, because every class gets their own basically rule book, which a lot of games don't. It's usually just, hey, here's the central rule book, and then everyone is needing to wait to take their turn to take a look at it. Here, it's just like, oh, how do I play the working class? And it's like, everything that is in this rule book is right in front of you. So players can take agency and look and learn their own class. On top of the fact that while there's a lot of moving parts, by the second, third round, every time I've played this, all the players, it's like, oh, makes sense. We got it. It's just that intuitive, even though it is a lot, at least in my experience. But like I said, it's not number 1. It's here at number 5 because I haven't played it. I never want to play this at less than 4. So it's pretty much a 4-player game for me. On top of that, I need people who find this stuff interesting. Like I don't want to throw this to someone who has no interest in political economics. It's just yeah, the politico-economic Euros. Like if someone's just not into that in any way, then they're just not gonna have a good time. But when I can get those players, then this is just a fantastic experience. So that's my number 5, Hegemony. My number 4 is new to this list. It is just snuck on, went super high because I have tried to play this game every chance I get, and this was actually kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to quickly do a top 10 games of 2023 revised, because this one is just fantastic, and that is Thunder Road Vendetta. I'll just do this one. I have the Maximum Chrome edition, but um, I finally got a chance to play this with more than 2. Every time I've been playing it, it has been at 2, which is still good, but this game is just pure chaos. So the more the merrier for this game. Like honestly, it plays up to what does it play? It plays up to 4. I think does the expansion let you play 5? I can't remember. I think it does let you play up to 5, but oh, people don't recommend it. I think it's fine at 2. I don't think it's that big of a deal. It just kind of comes down. I mean, yeah, obviously, because in Thunder Road you have your cars and they can get shot and destroyed, and if you lose all 3 of your cars, then you're out of the game. Um, so yeah, obviously in a 2-player game, if that happens to one person, then the other person just wins. But I've also found that you kind of it's a little bit more of a race element where you are actually getting further, because in a more player game it's just so chaotic that your chances of you actually getting to the end is very slim unless things go your way. You're losing cars for sure. But this game is just the few games that I'm like not trying to actually be as strategic. Like I'm obviously I'm trying to do what I can to win, but it's like if there's an option of like, hey, here's the safe route or here's the cool route, I'm taking the cool route. Okay, I know there's a ramp here, and if I roll a 2, taking that ramp, I can land on another ramp, and if I take that ramp, then I roll a 3, I can land here on this player and then slam into them. I'll do that every day, all day of the week, because that's just if all that pulls off, it's just so much fun. Like the best thing about this game also is it's a large box, but it's organized extremely well, and the gameplay is so simple. Like last time I played this, I was teaching 2 new people, and after like 5 minutes of teaching, they already knew what it was. And then when we played it again, uh, I threw in some tiles I had never seen, like I hadn't played with the fire or played with ramps, and just by quickly flipping through the rulebook, it was like, oh, okay, that's just what those do now. Learned, ready to go. It wasn't like blown out. It wasn't. It just wasn't complex in any way, but just pure fun. On top of the fact that if you want a more complex game, you can give yourself individual player powers, like these command options are unique to you. You can have a deck of German engineering cards that are going to be more, I guess, more of a controlled element instead of just rolling random dice. There's a big rig that you can throw in that is like the central massive rig that jumps around. There is motorcycles you can throw in. So you can add in a lot. Oh man, look at this. Man, that's like prototype. Look at that. This is insane. Um, yeah, like at the end of the day, this game is just absolute fun. And like I just said with Marvel Zombies, there's like whenever I'm trying to play with friends at this point in time, it's do I want to sit down and think heavily for 2 hours, or do I want to play games that are just going to be wacky and fun? And Thunder Road Vendetta absolutely is that. It's an absolute blast. I love it. And while I haven't tried the expansion, the Carnival of Chaos, I didn't get a chance to try that yet. The the way that they went about it is yes, it's like a box around the same size as this one. Let me see. Where was that picture? Here it is. Like the expansion is about the same size as this one right here. But what they did is they created a box extender that is just you just fold it and put it inside the box around all the inserts from the base game, and it leaves just enough that you take the insert from the expansion and you slide it in, and it fits flush with, yeah, there's lid lift from the game, but I'll take lid lift over extra boxes any day. Like if it's all concise in one box, that if I'm taking it around, then I'll do that instead of having 14 boxes to lug around. So more games need to do that. Like it's I was sitting here whenever I was organizing it all, and I'm like, what is this? And I was like, oh, it's just, you just take this and you slide it in, and then now I don't need the expansion box anymore. This one is so much fun. But again, like, while I don't mind it at 2, I clearly want it, like, I want to play it with more people, but I can't imagine this isn't a game I'd be bringing every time I'm going to, like, a game day. It's, hey, like, anyone want to play Thunder Road Vendetta? Like, we need, where there's enough people here that it's just going to be crazy. And then if you're playing with someone who takes this way too seriously, you just don't ever play with them because they are just sad. They're a sad human being. So that's number 4. Wasn't on the list last year, not last year in 2023. But yeah, shot way up here. My number 3 for the revised 2023 was on the list last year, and it was actually the honorable mention. And back then, I believe I said that this would go up. Like, I'd be very surprised if it didn't. And this is another one that is just so easy to get to the table that I love it. And that is Sky Team, which also has an expansion. But yeah, Sky Team was the hotness at Gen Con that year. I was like, I don't get it. What is this game? And then I kept hearing things about it. I'm like, okay. And I happened to see it at a game store that I was walking around. I'm like, okay, I keep hearing things, like everyone's raving about it. I'll pick it up, and then got it played. And yeah, it is very good. I I mean, one, it's a two player cooperative game with a very small footprint of, so you're just able to kind of lug it around wherever wherever you're going. Like I've taken this to a hookah lounge so many times because it's just that small of a game. But the dynamic between the two players of the no, which normally the non-communication games I'm not a huge fan of, especially in cooperative games, that fog of war element. But here I love how the subtle things that you do communicate to your teammate. Like if you're sitting here and everyone clearly knows you have a range of speed you have to get to, and you put in like a high value die, that tells your opponent, okay, that must be the lowest value that they have there, because why else would they do that? Or they're hoping to use other dice elsewhere that is needed to try and make it to the airport that you're going to. So it's like, okay, I'm putting in a 5 here. I know our window is 6, so I'm just really hoping you have a 1. And even though you are rolling dice, like I like the coffee element that gives you some semblance of mitigation. And within this small box, there are so many different modules. Not only do you have difficulties of the airplanes you're trying, or the airplanes, the airports you're trying to go to, the scenarios that you get to pick that give you, hey, now you have to worry about fuel, now you have to worry about wind, now you have to worry about ice or tilt or whatever it might be. On top of that, okay, you're doing a very difficult mission. Here's like a really cool special ability that you get to use once per game to try and counteract that. The fact that you can kind of customize which modules you want to add, just for any I mean, you don't even have to follow the scenarios in the book. You can just take a random airport and pick a module that you like and just kind of go from there. But that is just something that I love with this game specifically. I mean, any game that has a small footprint with a lot of depth to it is going to do wonders for me, because kind of at this point, when I'm looking at massive Kickstarters, like I see all the expansions and it's like, okay, I have to really go out of my way to want to play with that. And it's usually has to be with someone I've played with before, because if I'm teaching someone, I don't want to throw an expansion in on that. Here, yeah, you teach someone the base game, but it's so quick that they already got it, and then now it's like, oh, okay, now we're gonna throw in, the tilt, whatever. Yeah, we're gonna, like, where directional. We're gonna throw in that module, and that's the only one we're gonna play with. We're gonna do the same airport, but we're gonna now add in this extra tweak of a rule. It might not be super thematic on why players can't communicate, why the pilot and co-pilot can't talk, but I don't really care about that too much. I just like the it's like the pilot and co-pilot know each other so well. They've been working together in the airplane industry for 20 years. That's like, I don't need to tell you. You're gonna know. You're gonna know when to put the fucking wheels down, and you're gonna know that there's planes in our trajectory that we don't want to crash into and die. So we're on the same team here. We're gonna be doing the things that we can to make a safe landing. So tons of variety in this game. It's so good. That's why it's my number three, and it was the honorable mention in the original list. So my number two was on the original list. I was taking a look at it. I'm like, was it not? It was at number 9 originally, so it is shot way up. And again, this is one of those games that I have played more, and it's gone over extremely well every single time, and that is Freelancers. Plaid Hat Games has just been knocking it out of the park with these Crossroads games. Like, obviously it started with I was gonna say Dead Cells, with Dead of Winter, with their deck that was a game changer, and then they gave everyone fat shit in the box with Gen 7, and then I believe after that they got their, like, the rights to their company back, so like they're not under Asmodee. Um, and then they came out with Forgotten Waters, which I thought was an excellent step in the right direction for their Crossroads system. And then this one came out, which was a lot more D&D-esque. So while Forgotten Waters I think is a lot of fun and it's pirate themed and that's cool, Freelancers just kind of hits more my niche because I do play D&D consistently, and it still is that Crossroads system. And I love the different character customizations that you can get with picking your class and your class and your race to give you your different elements. I love the Mad Lib style of backstory, which they did in Forgotten Waters, and it was also here. It's just so much pure, legitimate humor that, I mean, every time I'm playing this game, I'm pretty much cracking up the entire time. The writing for this is so good, um, and it works. I mean, with that Mad Lib style for all players, and then you have your different adventures that you go on. And again, it's kind of that book element where, for the most part, yeah, you go to a location and you pick kind of what action you want to do, but that's all going to change based off their Crossroads system, which is no longer a deck of cards, it's app based. So there's a ton of different just random events that can just pop up by playing the same scenario over and over. Hell, if you have a different class, if you have a different race, just by going to the same location, you're going to get a different event that might pop up. And then you have your locations that you go to that are also going to be different depending on who's going there, whether you succeed or fail. I like that. And it worked in Forgotten Waters a lot too, by seeing what is on the map and reading what the options are. Like, the game tells you, hey, don't analyze every single option, just read like the titles and decide where you want to go. Um, I honestly follow that because I think it's a lot more fun to just kind of be like, oh, steal from the vault, and you just pick that and see what happens. Um, like, as is the running theme with this overall list, is that I'm picking games that, it sounds so obvious. Like, I'm picking games that are fun, and people are gonna be like, yeah, every game should be fun. And while I agree with that, to me, it's a different set of fun that I have. Like, I have more fun playing Freelancers than I do Hegemony, for example. Like, that's different styles of fun for me. Um, and Freelancers just shoots way up because of the D&D theme, the variety from each of the scenarios, the legitimate humor. This is a more in-depth party game, I guess. Like, if we're all getting like shit-faced or whatever, like, Yeah, this is a little bit more meaty, but this is a super solid game if everyone's just kind of like having a drink. I wouldn't necessarily call it a beer and pretzels game, but because there are a lot of like roles, like here you have the influencer and you kind of assign these out to the different players, but like it adds an element of improv where players have to actually role play and you have decision making, but it's all in a succinct story. Like this isn't a massive campaign they are going through. Even though if this company did decide to do a massive Crossroads campaign, I think that would be a blast of this style. That would be so much fun. But I think the work that they put into for the individual scenarios that you can pick based off difficulty and just classes, you get a ton more variety that way. And at this point, they have their third one out, Wandering Galaxy, that I have not had a chance to play because their app's not finished. I have the game, but they released it. I don't know why they did that. Like, it's like, hey, we want everyone to have their copy, for Christmas. Okay, so you give it to someone for Christmas and they can't fucking play it. Okay, thanks. Onto the shelf until your app's done. I would have much rather had it be, ready to go whenever I get my copy. But it is what it is. I have it, and I can't wait to see what that one does. And it seems like they've gotten more and more in depth as they've gone on, because this one compared to Forgotten Waters is a lot more involved than the original. But still, writing is fantastic. Gameplay is super fun. It's just a blast. So that's my number two. And my number one, which should not really be any surprise to anyone who has followed my channel, even though probably would have been a shocker in the original list, because it was in the original list. It was my number two, and that is Sleeping Gods. Distant Skies. Mwah. This game is sexy. Yeah, it was number two, mainly because Hegemony was just so unique. Like I said, Hegemony was my number one. And now that Hegemony has fallen, since I haven't played it all that much, and Sleeping Gods Distant Skies, I have actually completed the campaign. Yeah, like it's my number one for 2023. It basically Sleeping Gods was my favorite game for the longest time. In fact, no, I don't have my top 100. For 2 or 3 years, actually. When did Sleeping Gods come out? 2021. Yeah. So since 2021, I think 21 to yeah, for like 4 years, Sleeping Gods was my number one game of all time. Distant Skies came out, and it just improved on the original so much that like yes, I think this one is better. Even though what they changed in this one, it doesn't make me hate the original, but just different styles. And like it's just it's the best type of exploration game and storytelling game, and the combat, while it's not everyone's cup of tea, I thoroughly enjoy the puzzle element for this just has, I mean, Ryan Lockett's artwork, his world, and his writing is so much fun. Like the different characters that now with the new fate system and the new cards are a lot more personalized to build out your characters even more. The new system for the way you utilize items is just improved, so you don't have a massive tableau of a bunch of shit when you're only doing three things at any given point. Um, the exploration I think is still phenomenal for this, with just having this again book book. It's better. It's better. So because you just get so much more out of it. You get to see here and be like, "Oh, there's a waterfall right here. Let's make our way to there to pick that up and see what that's about." You get to see where you want to go and just interact with that. By having specific keywords, you get tons of quests you can go on that that you're given vague but it like kind of tells you, hey, like go north and you'll see there's a house at the end of at the base of a mountain, and then you go north a couple times and it's like, hey, there's that house and we have this keyword, and you go there and it says, hey, do you have this keyword? And you do, because it's on the quest card, so you get to have a different interaction. This is like the perfect example of an open world exploration game. Um, I just got done trying Seventh Citadel again, and that one, like, for some reason that one just doesn't work, but this one does because you're engrossed in this story. You're focused on the book and the elements of the game the entire time versus in a catalog of the box just flipping cards after card after card. Uh, and it's just enhanced by, I mean, this one you have your plane that you get to manage that actually allows you to fly from location to location if you need to, but it's also you have to manage its health and you have to manage its fuel because the further you go from one location to the next, the more fuel it costs, but you are allowed to do that. You can discover unique locations that you can fly to. So everything about Sleeping Gods Distant Skies is just improved in another way. Now, my campaign for it was, it felt, because in Sleeping Gods the original, that one felt like you were really exploring, and then the ending kind of was like, oh, we finally figured out how to end it. Here, it felt like it was a lot more succinct of a story where pretty much it tells you right away what you need to do to finish the campaign. And there are a ton of endings. How many endings are there? I can't. Okay, the journal log does. Oh, is it up here? There are six. Yeah, there are six different endings. Um, which I can't remember how many were in the original, but you have to be able to figure out all those different endings. If you're doing probably the base true, like the ending that they want you to get, it's very simple to actually do, and you can finish the game a lot. But what's interesting is when I did my original discussion by finishing this campaign, that was actually kind of a problem for me. I was like, oh man, yeah, we already finished it, huh? That kind of sucks. But as I've played more campaigns that are a lot quicker, but it's now I would look back on that as a positive because I have so many campaign games that if it takes me a year to complete a campaign for every single one of them, I'm never replaying them. But games like Sleeping Gods, Distant Skies, or Fate Forge, or Divinity even, they end so quickly that if they're narrative based like this is, or exploration based, then I can replay them again and do different decisions versus like, well, that was a fantastic year of a campaign. I know there's different decisions to make, never happening because I don't want to spend another year because I have other games to play. So I think Sleeping Gods Distant Skies, now looking back, has grown in my eyes because I am incentivized to play it again and do different quests, go to different locations, explore, um, have an adventure, and know that it's not going to take forever to finish. So I mean, it was subjectively going to be my number one in the original list, but Hegemony was just so special that that's why it was number one last year. Uh, but now that's my new number one, Sleeping Gods Distant Skies. And at this point, who knows if he's going to be doing a third one? I would imagine maybe not another Sleeping Gods, um, even though this, like, why fix what ain't broke? Like, it's going to make money. I would immediately, go into debt to take another to get another one. However, I mean, he does all these storytelling games with Near and Far, Above and Below, Now or Never. That seems to be his bread and butter. And surprisingly, Distant Skies, I mean, came out 2 years later, but it went on crowdfunding, I feel like, really quick. Um, that I'm curious, because Creature Caravan was their game that came out after this one. This was like Ryan Lockett's Red Raven's next game, but I'd be curious to see what their next big storytelling one is going to be. Again, I hope for another Sleeping Gods, but I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do. Maybe they won't do another one, and I think that's fine because these two, this one and the original, just have so much depth to them in terms of their exploration that you really get a lot of game for it. Um, so that's it. That is my new revised list of 2023. Now, what games fell off? So originally, my number three actually, and this would have technically been on here, but I think the original time I did this list, it was like semantics at that point, but this time I was truly going off games that said 2023. So what was on the original list was Frosthaven. This one says, it says nothing because apparently um, BGG wants to be shit right now. Why is this so slow all of a sudden? Okay, well BGG wants to apparently not work. Let's see, where's OBS? There we go. Cool, thanks. That's perfect timing. All right, let's see. Okay, oh, there we go. All right, so Frosthaven. Everyone knows what Frosthaven is. So, wow. I guess it is 5 in the morning. I guess, are they doing maintenance? Anyway, fuck off. So, Frosthaven is the sequel to Gloomhaven, if you haven't heard, and it says it's 2022. Like maybe the app is working. Watch, the app probably isn't working either, which would then make me think it's an issue with BGG, which I think it is. Oh no, there it is. Yeah, so Frosthaven says 2022 on it. I don't know if you guys can see that, but so that's why I think it was one of those games that came out so late in 2022, and some people got it. I got my copy in 2023, so that's why I considered it the original. Yeah, Frosthaven is phenomenal. Like it, if I went that same route, it would easily be on the list. But I kind of wanted to showcase a few new games instead of talking about the original old ones. So that was that one. One game that did completely fall off that I did consider, while I still think it's phenomenal, is Darwin's Journey. And this one I actually had played recently, and it is really good. Yeah, Darwin's Journey, but just new games came on, and even though I really like the way Darwin's Journey works with its like its worker placement and the different actions that get better as you kind of unlock new locations that you get rewards if other people go to, exploring the different islands down at the bottom. It does a lot of things really, really well. Just other games are fitting my style a lot more. And that goes for another one that fell off, which is Nucleum. And Nucleum, I think, could honestly have hopped back on more so than some of these other games. Uh, Especially because I have an expansion for it, Nucleum Australia, that I think it just becomes, again, with those heavy, heavy Euro games, I have to be in the mood, and I'm more inclined to play the games that I've mentioned this time versus last time. Like, just my feelings towards heavier Euros is just I'm not as incentivized to play them because I don't know. I'm lazy, I guess. I got lazy. Well, I'd show you Nucleum, but the app decided to quit working as well. So that was another one that fell off. And I mean, it might have had I played Australia and it been fresh in my mind, recency bias of, hey, Nucleum is actually still really good. But then, alas, that's not the case. And then the one that completely fell off that I really just have no interest in actually playing again is Septima. That's the other witch game. Septima. You had Septima, Evenfall, Witchcraft, and maybe I did say Septima. I can't remember. But Septima was Mind Clash's game that every time I played it, like it was good, but I remember showing it to someone and they were just like, eh. And it's fascinating because I feel like Septima should be better than it actually is. I don't know why it's just not really, really working like some of their other games. But that one fell off. When Board Game Geek works again, if you're not familiar with these games, you can take a look. But that's pretty much it. Every other game was either already on the list and just kind of fluctuated and moved. So that is my top 10 games of 2023 revisited. Let me know what you think of these games in the comments below. Let me know what your favorite games of 2023 were in the comments. And yeah, like, comment, share, and subscribe. And have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.
Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.